Okay, next question. Insert name asks, are you looking forward, are you interested in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite? Any hopes, wishes, or fears? Also, what Street Fighter character would you like to see in Infinite? Okay, so here's the thing about Infinite, right? I think it's poised to be the game. I think it's poised to be the esports game for the FGC. I think it is. I think there are a lot of games out there, and I don't disagree with this idea of supporting all games. I do think the reason Street Fighter doesn't fail is because it's kind of like politics, a little bit. I want to use one analogy. So in politics, often what people will say is, you've got, let's take America, the Democrats and the Republicans, and then everything else is a wasted vote, right? And we're trying to break through, right, to the masses for the fighting game community, and you kind of have to have a game spearheading that. And once you break through, I think everybody benefits. Okay, I don't know that the strategy of support of like I don't know how to say this the right way. Sorry, you're seeing me struggle a little bit with this one, but because I do believe in supporting all of those other games. I do believe in playing the game that you like. I do believe that they're all important, and when you have some knowledge of them, I actually find them very interesting. I'm very much a Street Fighter game player, but when I have knowledge of other games, I enjoy watching them, and I actually buy a lot of the games for story mode. Believe it or not, I actually buy not Killer Instinct, although that does look really interesting to me. I did buy it at one stage. Mortal Kombat I always buy for the story mode. It's a nostalgic trip for me to play a Mortal Kombat style game, but I don't have time to invest in a lot of fighting games. I don't pick them up as quickly as other people do, so for me personally, I have to stick with Street Fighter. But I believe as the FGC, we kind of need something like Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom to spearhead. They've been around forever. Their Capcom games are incredibly important games, and they've always been the most popular games. I don't want to talk about, I guess you could talk about sales figures, and you could argue that some games are more popular, but certainly from an FGC standpoint, I feel like it's clear that those Capcom games are like the games, right? The original game of Street Fighter, and everything sort of follows suit. So that's why people won't let Street Fighter 5 fail. It's partly because you have Capcom Pro Tour and there's money and all that sort of stuff, but it's partly because that's right at the top, at the pinnacle. And so is Marvel vs. Capcom. It's right up there. Now, the amazing thing about Marvel vs. Capcom, of course, is that it's Marvel, right? And the timing is so important. But I'm going to go through like a bunch of reasons. So, Marvel, right? When you had Marvel vs. Capcom in the past, it was Marvel. And it was Marvel just, here, have the license. Yeah, okay, fine, you can use our characters. That was kind of, feel like the extent of it. Now, Marvel is owned by Disney. And Disney also happened to own ESPN. And ESPN has been showing Street Fighter. So there's this kind of like interesting circle going on, right? Disney, if they are invested in this game, then this game is going to be the game, the successful fighting game. I kind of feel like if this game doesn't do it, then where are we at? Which is a scary prospect, but it's not the scariest prospect in the world, because we can be where we're at, which is great. I love where we're at, but we can also be so much bigger if we want to be. And I do think that Marvel vs. Capcom has the opportunity to break through, because of Disney connection, the ESPN connection. For Disney, it can be like, oh, this can be the game that we're invested in. This can be the esport that we're invested in. Marvel vs. Capcom. But also, for the average spectator, Marvel as a brand is just tremendously. It's 1,000,000 times bigger than Street Fighter as a brand, right? So if your mum or your dad or your sister or your uncle or your friend or who people, right, when they turn on ESPN, right, you know how we've seen the tweets of people who've sort of turned on Street Fighter and said, I can't believe I'm watching Street Fighter on ESPN, but you know, it's kind of interesting, it's kind of hype, it's kind of this, kind of that. You know, got some nice tweets, got some bad tweets, we've got some nice ones too. Some people kind of interested. There's some interest there, right? Marvel, that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. They are already emotionally invested. So you want to talk about accessibility, you want to talk about casuals, you want to talk about enjoyment. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was like one of the, you know, you just go to Evo, they had the, you know, I love Street Fighter, but Marvel vs. Capcom had the biggest hype around it. It did. It just always did. It had the loudest crowd, the biggest hype. It had these crazy ass cinematic sequences, which to most top players don't mean a lot to watch, but to just average person, whoa, that's really cool to watch. And the combos, crazy combos, just stuff going on all over the screen. And with the hype of the crowd, they get hyped themselves. So Marvel vs. Capcom has a huge opportunity. Capcom can learn from all of the mistakes of Street Fighter V's launch. I hope they do. If it's late, if it's incomplete, don't bring it out. Wait for it to be ready. Release it when it's ready. It has to be a complete game so that people want to buy it as a game, and it has to be watchable. And I believe it will be watchable. And like I said, the average person already has an incredible emotional connection to the game because they've seen the movies. They might have read the comic books. They might collect the collectibles. The kids might have action figures, backpacks, jumpers. Sorry, that's so English of me. Sweatshirts, you know, whatever, right? They might have clothing. So there's an undeniable emotional connection to Marvel as a brand. And Disney, with their ownership of ESPN and their potential to be interested in esports, which we don't know if that exists or not, but if they do, if Disney has an interest in esports and wants this to be successful and are invested in it, and that's the smartest move Capcom could do, is actually say to Disney, this is your cut or whatever, or this is your part of the business model, and Disney are behind it. This is it, guys. This is the game. Am I interested in it? Yeah, I am. I wasn't interested in Marvel that much. I bought it. I tried to get into it, but again, I find it hard to juggle multiple games. I'm an old fart, so maybe that's what it is. But Marvel vs. Capcom looks a little bit like it's somewhere in between Marvel and Street Fighter. A lot of people are saying it looks a bit like Tatsunoko. Is it Tatsunoko? Tatsunoko? I never forget the name. T versus C. But yeah, I'm interested in it from a lot of different ways, but I'm particularly interested in its opportunity to raise the profile of fighting games in esports, and I think everybody else should be excited about that too. So there you go. Is there a Street Fighter character I'd like to see in it? Oro? Wouldn't that be great? Dirty old man. Dirty old man in an esport on ESPN. No, I think, you know, Ryu. I'd like to see a nice share of Street Fighter characters in there. As far as Capcom characters go, I'd like to see Azura from Azura's Wrath. Big fan of that game. So sad that it wasn't as successful as it could have been. So sad there isn't a second one. The score is beautiful. The graphics are beautiful. It's a bit of a lazy gaming experience, but it's good for a Sunday afternoon. Kind of like watching an anime, to be honest.